I was playing a game one evening with my son. It was one of those simple games. A few pieces on a board, a few easy moves, something we'd played dozens of times before. I won the first game, then the second, then the third. By the 10th round, I was still undefeated. Finally, I leaned back in my chair, smiled, and said, "I think that's enough for tonight." But my son looked up at me with this determined little expression and said, "No, you can't stop yet." I laughed. "Why not?" He said, "Because it's not over until I win." That moment changed me. I'll never forget it. Because right there, in those simple words, was a philosophy for living. He wasn't just talking about a game. He was declaring something about his spirit. And I thought to myself, what if more people lived with that attitude? What if instead of giving up after the 10th failure or the 20th rejection, we said, "It's not over until I win"? The spirit of refusal in life. Most people stop trying right before the turning point. They get discouraged, tired, disappointed. Maybe they put in years of effort and nothing seems to move, and slowly that spark, that belief that they could, begins to fade. But success doesn't respond to convenience. It responds to conviction. The moment you decide that you're not leaving the game until you win, everything changes. Because when you refuse to quit, the universe eventually runs out of ways to stop you. There are two kinds of pain in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Discipline weighs ounces, regret weighs tons. Every time you decide to keep going, even when it hurts, you're choosing the lighter burden. That's what "it's not over until I win" really means. It's not about ego. It's not about proving someone wrong. It's about mastering yourself. Defeat is a season, not a sentence. There was a time in my own life when I lost more than I won. I remember nights when I'd sit alone with my thoughts, wondering if I had what it took to create the life I dreamed of. I'd work, plan, give it everything I had, and still, the results didn't come. I started to question myself. Maybe I wasn't smart enough. Maybe I'd missed my chance. But here's what I learned: failure isn't final. It's feedback. Every setback carries a message. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door. It's all teaching you something you needed to learn. You're being refined, not rejected. The seasons of defeat don't last forever, but they do serve a purpose. In those seasons, you learn patience, you learn humility, you learn what truly matters. And one day, when the tide turns, you realize that the struggle was the training. You were never losing. You were being prepared. Persistence is the price of progress. If there's one thing life respects, it's persistence, not talent, not luck, persistence. Every person who has built something remarkable, a business, a legacy, a dream, did so because they refused to quit when quitting was the easiest option. See, most people want the reward without the repetition. They want the prize without the process. But it doesn't work that way. Persistence is the bridge between intention and achievement. I often tell people, don't count how many times you fall. Count how many times you get back up. Because every time you rise again, you prove that defeat doesn't define you. Your response does. When you decide deep down, it's not over until I win, you stop negotiating with excuses. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop letting fear make your decisions. You begin to act from a place of faith, not comfort. Failure as a teacher, most people are afraid of failure because they think it says something about their worth. But failure is just a teacher, and sometimes a very patient one. Think about how a child learns to walk. They fall hundreds of times before they ever take that first step. But they don't quit. They don't say, "Maybe walking isn't for me." They fall, they cry, they get up, and eventually they walk. Somewhere along the way, as adults, we lose that simplicity. We start to believe that falling means we're not meant for something. But what if falling means you're becoming something? The truth is, your failures are proof that you're in motion. They mean you're trying. They mean you're alive. Don't let them discourage you. Let them instruct you. Learn the lesson. Adjust your plan. Then get back in the game, because it's not over until you win. The inner battle, winning, isn't always about trophies, applause, or recognition. Sometimes, the greatest victories are invisible. It's the moment you choose discipline over distraction. It's the day you get out of bed, even when your heart feels heavy. It's when you forgive someone who doesn't deserve it. Those are victories too. And they matter just as much as the big ones. There's a war that happens inside every one of us, between the part that wants to quit and the part that knows it was made for more. The voice of fear says, "Why bother?" The voice of faith whispers, "Try again." Every day you get to choose which voice to obey. And every time you choose faith, you grow stronger. The mindset of a winner. Here's something I've discovered: winners lose more often than losers do. Because winners keep playing. They stay in the arena. When you see someone who's achieved extraordinary success, you're looking at someone who refused to walk away. They took the same hits, the same doubts, the same pain, but they didn't let it define them. They understood that life rewards consistency. You don't need to be the fastest, the smartest, or the luckiest. You just need to keep showing up. Most of the time, the difference between success and failure isn't brilliance, it's endurance. The people who win are the ones who simply outlast the rest. Reflections for the journey: take a moment and ask yourself, where have I stopped too soon? What dream did I bury because it felt too far away? What goal did I abandon because I got tired of waiting? If something inside you still stirs when you think about it, if it still lights a spark in your heart, then it's not over. Maybe it's time to dust it off. Maybe it's time to play one more game. Maybe it's time to believe again. The truth is, success doesn't come to those who never fail. It comes to those who never quit. You become what you persist at. There's a saying I hold close: success is something you attract by the person you become. Every time you persevere, you're becoming stronger, wiser, more capable. You're not just chasing a result, you're building the character that can sustain it. That's why goals matter. Not just for what they give you, but for what they make of you. When you set a goal and pursue it relentlessly, even when no one believes in you, you develop inner strength, the kind that can't be bought, taught, or taken away. Because in the end, wealth, happiness, success, they're not just destinations. They're reflections of who you've become in the process. The turning point: I've seen people who gave up when they were inches away from the finish line. They walked away not knowing that one more try, one more phone call, one more act of courage could have changed everything. Sometimes, life tests your resolve right before the breakthrough. It's almost as if the universe wants to know, do you really mean it? And if your answer is yes, if you keep showing up even when it's dark, even when it's lonely, even when nothing seems to move, that's when the miracle happens. That's when doors start opening, people start appearing, opportunities start aligning. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because you got stronger. It's you, Vez. You remember, the real competition isn't with others. It's with the version of you that's content with less. Every day, you face two choices: growth or comfort. One will challenge you, the other will slowly drain your potential. Choose growth, choose discomfort, choose to keep playing even when you're tired. The greatest satisfaction in life doesn't come from beating someone else. It comes from knowing you didn't quit on yourself. The final game that night. When my son finally won the game, he smiled, stretched his arms, and said, "Now I can go to sleep." And I smiled too, because I realized the lesson wasn't about who won or lost. It was about the spirit of refusing to stop until the mission is complete. Life is just like that. You keep playing, you keep adjusting, you keep learning until you win. And winning doesn't always mean you got everything you wanted. Sometimes winning simply means you didn't give up. So tonight, I want you to think about the dream you've set aside, the one you stopped believing in because life didn't make it easy. I want you to bring it back to life. Look at it with new eyes and tell yourself, it's not over until I win. Say it until it becomes your truth. Because when you decide that your story isn't over, something powerful happens. Life starts to respond to your persistence. It won't always be fast. It won't always be easy. But it will be worth it. Every setback will become a stepping stone. Every delay will build your patience. Every loss will sharpen your wisdom. And one day, you'll look back and realize the person who refused to quit was the person who found peace, happiness, and success all in one. Because the game was never against life. It was always a test of your will. And the winner is always the one who keeps playing. Don't count how many times you've fallen. Count how many times you stood back up. Don't measure how far you still have to go. Measure how much stronger you've become since you started. And the next time you feel like giving up, remember this simple truth: it's not over until you win.